It's time.
Right after I adjust this display setting real quick. There we go. Excuse me. Oh, poo. There we go. Steve, this is my show. Okay. So, today is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a directed lecture on studying painting from a picture. And Steve, you have to pay for that. Thank you, I appreciate that. But yeah, today's gonna be That's all good. That's all good. Just remember, this is PG, not PG-13. Today's going to be a directed lecture on painting, which the long and short is we've got a picture, and we want to turn the picture into knowledge. But it's kind of a bummer when you go in to study a picture and you don't even know, number one, what you want to learn, and number two, how you're going to learn it. Because in order to study effectively, you need a goal and you need a process. And a little bit of it certainly helps too to understand how your materials work. So there's different things you can learn from this picture. You can learn about light, specifically as it applies to forms, or as it applies to the physics of the light itself. You can study color, and this can be a realistic study or a stylized one. Today we're gonna paint this picture, and we're gonna go over different methods to do that, because painting, that can mean That can mean more than one thing when it comes to what we want to do on a computer in digital arts. Now, painting, that's a verb referring to the act of creating pictures from paint. What most people are actually thinking of doing is what's called rendering. Which rendering is more broad than painting. That's just the act of making the picture look cool. So, let's start with one idea of one thing that you maybe shouldn't do. Because it's not that difficult. It's not that difficult to just slice in some shapes. It's not that difficult to slice in some shapes and do a little bit of color picking. And you can accomplish a little bit of understanding from this, but just color picking and copying shapes is probably not going to get you the results that you're looking for. And you can see when I went in to go do that, when I went in to go actually grab a color, like, it's kind of goofed up here. Because this looks way darker than what this looks like in the picture. In part, that's because we're dealing with a whole lot of pixels. And the pixels all got individual different values. Now, one thing you can do to override that a little bit, in Clip Studio Paint, I can grab my eyedropper, go to my tool properties right here. And I could tell it to grab me an average color. Clip Studio Paint makes that real simple. You can tell it average color and increase the area of discretion. Increase the area of selection. There's science to picking colors. Like, there's a little bit of science involved in picking colors that you have to be aware of to make it work the first time. But there's also some good news in that the first color you pick doesn't have to be the last color. Whoops. So we've got colors here. We've got some shapes. We've got some forms here. But there's no soul. There's no indication here that a human being meaningfully assimilated the knowledge that's contained in this picture. Like, we had a little copying exercise and put together something that resembles a reasonably convincing human form in this light environment, but did we truly learn anything? Whoops. Did we truly learn anything? Did we truly develop any kind of meaningful understanding? And I would say not really. We copied shapes, we copied colors. We didn't really learn anything about what would make this art. We didn't arrest anything. We didn't arrest anything useful about this visual data for our own understanding. So, we're going to try again. And I am going to do a little bit of lasso and color fill stuff here. But we're going to apply a little bit more soul to it this time. Step 1. If you want to understand how to make something work inside your process, you need to build it. You need to build it using your process. You need to arrest that knowledge inside your normal way of working. So, step 1. Let's capture the gesture. Let's capture the gesture of this work here. Let's start by arresting these forms using our native process. Step 1, in just about every case, is draw. Just draw. You can do everything else. You can do everything else like incrementally in steps, as fast or as slow as you like to go. But step 1 in nearly every case is just to draw. Now today, we're not coming in here to learn the anatomy. We're not coming in here to make this a realistic copy of the picture. We're going to make it at least a little bit cool. Today we're coming in here to try to learn a little bit about color and light. But we're going to make sure that it's at least a little bit cool to look at as we go through the process of doing it. So, step 1, and I'm reasonably confident we can manage this inside the 40 minutes we've got left for the show. Now, as I'm doing this drawing, I'm already working using existing fundamentals for my own drawing skill. So you're going to have at least some of that. Now, the thing about art, the thing about the process of art, you don't have to do anything you don't really want to do. Some things you are going to have to power through a little bit if you have specific professional goals in mind, or if you have specific fundamentals you really need to get your head around. But it's possible in nearly every case to find a method inside a process you feel comfortable working with. Okay, so now we've got a shape. Now we've got a cool shape. And then instead of color picking, what I'm going to do is start with, instead of color picking, now color picking is a valid strategy, but that even that has a certain set of rules that you would be well advised to work by. So we're not going to color pick. We're going to color match. Now, if we're just doing straight painting, the best way I know of to do that... Oh, and I'm not using a special tool. This design pencil brush just comes with Clip Studio Paint. The best way I know of to paint, if you're just going to do straight painting, imitating old technique, is to start with dark and work your way up to light. Now, much in the same way that Super Hot Fire is not a rapper, I'm not a painter. I just don't know when to quit. That's what I have going on for me. Oh, where's my color history? Nope. Nope. There it is. Now, bear in mind as I'm doing this, you don't have to do it this way. If you have a different process that makes you feel good, if you have a different process of drawing that makes you feel good, and it gets the results that you want, the drawing results and the form results and the rendering results, do that. The act of art is not about making yourself miserable just because that's cool. No, it's about drawing cool pictures. It's about making cool stuff and adding it to the world. So this is still pretty basic at the moment. But in my opinion, because we're not worried about copying exactly, we're worried about making cool light and making a cool picture and learning from the knowledge we have in the picture. We're already a few steps ahead. All right. So we're a few steps ahead, but, well, number one, it's still not very detailed. And number two, we might be just a little bit off. We might be just a little bit off when it comes to the colors we wanted to get in the picture, in our drawing, based on what we had on the picture. But the nice thing is, you can change your mind. You can change the colors. Like, you have the option to be flexible and develop it over time. Work the picture out. Now you can see the highlights on this picture, super sharp, super brilliant. So, we'll just flex it in that direction. And now we get into the territory where we can color pick internally from the picture a little bit. And notice also that I'm not, as I'm working through this painting, I'm not doing super flat work. We're not doing this, where we just made lasso tool selections and filled it in with flats. And you can do that as a starting point. There's nothing wrong with that. But color and light are made up of a whole bunch of dynamic ingredients. Light comes from Light comes from the forms. Light comes from the forms. Light comes from bouncing light inside of a room. And that applies different levels of light onto a figure. And there's contours. There's bumps and ridges that change the way that the light interacts with a surface. Like how we've got this armpit here, just absolutely sucking up all that light. No, not sucking up light. It's creating a deep dark shadow. It's not letting any light in. And you notice now that I've kind of built some stuff up inside this picture, I can do selections inside it and make live corrections because I've developed a palette. I've worked a handful of colors in, and now that's going to let me make a bunch of micro decisions to change the presentation of the form. Now, let's see here. Now, this black and white stuff, this is a purposeful thing that I did. So, when I make this black and white, like I've got some brights and I've got some darks and I've got some different colors, but I want you to pay attention to the fact that basically there's two things that can happen as you work inside of a picture. You've got your light, which is a scale of, you know, light to dark. And then you've got your color, which, whoopsie. Color could be a little bit of a distraction because this kind of left to right-ish scale of color can exist at any point along light to dark. And in some cases, you may even have a situation where as you go light to dark on a color, it acts diagonally or even in a curved way rather than strictly left to right and up to down, which is just absolutely delightful to hear when you're already super confused about how all this business is supposed to work to begin with. like I said, don't worry too much about it. Just remember you don't have to spend time on things that you don't care that much about. Don't let that stop you from acquiring the skills you need to acquire, but remember that we're here to have a good time and make cool pictures. Not drive ourselves miserable in the pursuit of fundamentals that may not all evenly apply to our use cases. So we're drawing this picture. We're collecting this information on light and color and just trying to build out our understanding. But there is one small problem. And this is a bit of a... There's one small problem in the fact that what we've chosen to do here did increase our understanding, but it might not have necessarily solved a problem that was important to us. We might not have meaningfully discovered how this helps us to achieve our goals. That's the big catch-22 with when you decide to pursue any kind of study and you weren't certain what you wanted to accomplish from it. Did doing this help you finish a project you care about? Did doing this make you better in your specific discipline? Did doing this get you more understanding into your favorite subject matter? Did doing this active study, does it make you a better artist? Sure, depending on how aligned this active study was with your goals. You have to be careful about letting yourself get trapped in a cycle of studying your fundamentals and never going anywhere. It's like well, it's kind of like if you decided that you were going to take a car, this perfect, beautiful car, whatever your favorite car might happen to be. It might be a fancy Jeep. It might be a Lincoln Navigator. It might be a Rolls Royce. I don't know what your favorite car is. I don't know what your dream car is. But the problem with your dream car is that it's meant to take you places. Now, if you're like changing its oil all the time and making sure that it's in good condition and making sure that its parts are all set and in good order and that the condition of this vehicle is phenomenal, that's great. But what's the point if you never go anywhere in the car? Your art is the car. You have to put the right oil in the car. You have to put the right gas in the car. You have to put the right operating parts in the car, just in general. And then you have to actually get on the highway and drive where you want to go.
Good. Sometimes we have to offend each other, Steve. It's okay.
But you get what I mean, right? You bought the car, go somewhere in it, you know? That's art. So we've got a picture now. Now, granted, like I said, this experience that we had here studying off of this painting, we might not have necessarily grabbed a lot of specifics off of it that may apply to our circumstance, and this is why I don't do a lot of studies anyway, because I much prefer to solve problems on the fly as they specifically pertain to a project that I'm interested in. But we still learned here. We still gained some subconscious understanding that we can use when we go to paint something in the future. Now we know a little bit more, maybe not explicitly, that we can explain. We may not have like explicit knowledge that we can put into words and assemble, but now we have slightly greater intuitive knowledge about the human body, about the way the forms behave, about the way we can apply light and color to our art and create something better from the store of material that we actually care about. Not every picture is going to give you great useful knowledge that you can put to work creating. You can't go in and just randomly study anything. That doesn't mean that you'll come away with absolutely nothing. That doesn't mean that you'll come away with absolutely nothing when you go to study. But your brain is kind of like a bank. And the stuff that you put into it is basically a checking account that you withdraw from later when you go to work. If you live in the US, you have to put US dollars into the bank for that to be worth anything. If you live in Japan, you have to put yen into the bank for that to be worth anything. Now, my analogy falls apart a little bit when you get into the question of currency exchanges, but your brain is a creative bank, and you need to put the correct currency in it for your kind of work. Are you a comic artist? Are you an animator? Are you an illustrator? You're not going to be able to study just anything and it makes sense for you. You have to make sure that you're investing the correct creative capital and studying the things that are most related to your field of expertise. Study artists that draw the things that you want to draw. Like what I'm doing, copying this picture, go find your favorite artist and try to reverse engineer their work and figure out how they do what they do. Now, you can't plagiarize their work and call it your own, but something about your favorite artist's work tickles your brain. So there's no reason that you shouldn't take their pictures and try to figure out what it is that tickles your brain and reverse engineer it. Now, if there's something you don't understand about the human body or about nature, yeah, sometimes you're going to have to just take a regular picture and do a big boy study, do a big girl study, and learn about nature or mechanics or whatever it is that you're lacking critical fundamental understanding on. But everything else is still free game. Go learn from the artists who give you the fizz, who you look at that picture and say, heck yeah, that's what I'm after, that's what I'm about. That's why I buy comics and read them and keep them nearby when I'm working on something. Like, everybody's saving and retweeting and building up collections of pictures, so, and I know you do. Like, you do, I do. We save pictures. We have pictures we hold on to because we think they're cool. So, there's no reason not to take those pictures and learn from them and study from them and become stronger artists from that store of knowledge. One other thing too, as you're working, don't get caught up in the trap of polishing something forever and ever. And everybody's been guilty of this at one point or another. At some point, you have to put the pencil down and you either have to put the pencil down or purpose to advance to the next stage, just because you don't have forever. I don't have forever, you don't have forever. So you got to be selective about what you want to let take up your time. You got to be selective about what you want to study and how long you want to study. And then be decisive when it's time to pull the trigger and step forward. I don't really like the lighting on this photograph, so for the finishing touch, I'm going to make some little changes here to the background to make it make more sense to me. Even if we're studying, that's still that doesn't mean that we can't make the picture cool. If the assignment was to copy the picture exactly, well, I failed, and you and I would probably fail too unless we're here for the School of Realism. And there's nothing wrong with realism, but even the people who paint with any meaningful, divisive realism in their work, there's still some things that they're going to do to make their pictures cool. Because that's a thing you can do. That's a thing we're all allowed to do. I would say we're obligated to do it as artists. Alright. So there you go, we studied a painting. Not bad. Not bad for 1 hour. I think we squeezed plenty of juice out of that for 1 hour of observation and for 1 hour of observation and construction. Don't beat yourself up just trying to do a random assignment of study if it's not in line with your goals and objectives and what's going to advance your craft as an artist. Do things that make sense for your craft. Do things that make sense for what you're trying to do long term. And on top of that, do things that you're going to enjoy studying. I promise it's going to come out better that way. Promise. In the meantime, I appreciate you stopping by. Y'all take care. We'll see ya.